why is that a good reason to think that diversity is a barrier to cooperation?
Mm. The way that people act being a barrier in cooperation.
Because that was the test, right?
Right. Hmm. Dude. Okay. Okay. Is that a good dude? No, I'm actually happy that I'm talking to you right now. But like, okay, so could you ask that again? I wonder what's happening to me.
Yeah. Basically, what I'll have you do is pick a conclusion that means something to you, something meaningful to you,
Yeah.
um, and I'll ask questions that help us explore how you arrived at your conclusion and what supports your confidence that it's true.
Oh, no.
Does that sound cool?
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool.
Okay. All right. What was your name?
Kennedy.
Kennedy?
Yes, sir.
All right. Kenn
EDY.
Edy? Cool. My name's David.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. All right. So, did I explain well enough what we're doing?
Oh, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay. So, what is a conclusion or a belief that is meaningful to you that we could explore the reasoning that supports it?
Huh. I guess. Okay. In any context.
Yeah. Something that if you found out it was not true tomorrow, you would change the way that you behave.
Uh, that like. Hmm. All right, this is gonna be kind of a hot take, I guess. I don't know, but generally, cultural. Okay, so I guess generally, in order for like a civilization to be like efficient, I feel, because like I believe that like people cannot recognize themselves, especially when like the idea of themselves has been like spread among a populace of like a bunch of different people. I believe that like how do I say okay, so basically, in order for society to be most effective, it needs to be at least on the more basic parts homogenous. Like people need to look the same. People need to somewhat act the same and somewhat believe the same thing, kind of.
Okay. Maybe I can rephrase it.
Yeah.
Um, Diversity uh, is a barrier to efficiency.
Um. Yeah. Sure.
Will that work?
Yeah.
Okay. So when when we say diversity, I'm thinking of like kind of what you were saying, like how different people look differently and think differently.
Yeah.
Um, when you think of diversity, like, do you want to focus more on how people look or how people think?
I feel like those two kind of come hand in hand, kind of. Well, I mean, like, so I think, honestly speaking, I would like to say that, like, first it goes how people look, and then when everybody kind of looks the same, then it goes how do people think that people split each other up, like split each other up at, you know? So
Okay.
I think we could go
So the way people look affect the way they think?
not not necessarily. I guess like it can. It absolutely can, especially like because like your looks are kind of determined, or your perception of your looks are kind of determined by who's looking at you and what they think of you.
Okay.
But I guess like with that, it's like how do I say, like I guess looks and similarity are another like I guess like barrier or kind of like a wall to cross over in order to like get people to like I guess how do I say cooperate, if that
Okay.
makes does that make sense kind of?
Okay. Diversity is a barrier to cooperation?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. What's the main reason that supports this idea?
I guess like the main reason that supports this idea. I guess generally speaking, hmm. So you kind of I guess like take a look at the world, and especially in like places like this where like everybody is like very very diverse and we all have our own belief systems and whatnot and like whatnot. The rhetoric that is being used in order because like on some fundamental level we all understand that our difference of beliefs, our difference of backgrounds, and like our difference of like bodies and whatnot have a very real possibility of affecting the way that we treat each other. So because of that, like you hear like, you know, what's it called? Like, you know, you do your thing, I do my thing. Like I'll keep to my own, you keep to your own. A lot of these like ideas of like how do I say like not interacting with people because like and I feel like that comes from an understanding of like, you know, like I said again, just people are different, and because people are different, interacting with these ideas cause like some sort of friction that like honestly I don't think like society is really ready to deal with.
Hmm. Okay. Do you think that if there were no diversity, we would have a better world?
I don't think I think honestly okay. Hmm. Cause like when this question is like I guess like posed or something, I tend to like think of how do I say I tend to think of things from like the biological perspective, and then also like the human perspective or whatever, where like you know there's individuals, there are these different you know whatevers, and I guess like I think huh I don't think the world would necessarily be better, but I think if people are looking to escape conflict, if people are looking to escape violence,
Hmm.
that's the way to do it. You know, you erase reasons for people to fight.
Does conflict always lead to violence?
Um, does conflict always lead to violence? No, honestly, no.
Okay. Would um and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth,
Absolutely.
but would you say that conflict can be a good thing?
Yeah, I think if people are I don't think a lot of people are really ready to like I guess face that sort of like ego death that comes with realizing your way of looking at the world is the wrong way. And like quite frankly, I think I could handle it, but then like that's not to say that like I wouldn't have my own problems with that. And it's like I think like yeah, I think for the right people it can be a good thing, but then for a lot of people it's just going to lead them down the rabbit hole of like shutting themselves off and becoming more polarized in what they think, you know.
Hmm. Okay. Do you see any advantages to diversity?
Um again like yeah, but then if a society can handle it,
Okay. Kind of sounds like you're saying our society cannot handle diversity.
I think where we are like as people, like even just like around like just like not even just like our society here. I mean just like maybe even where we are like evolutionarily or something. I don't think like we're at a place where we could really like sit down and like I guess the way that I like to say it is like sit down and like conceptualize abstract forms of ourselves because like the way that like we form bonds with people is because like I feel like we bond with people that we see some sort of similarity to, and we kind of see those people as like a reflection of ourselves. And because of that, like if you take that like perspective and like you like ask someone holding that, I guess like someone who like fundamentally holds that perspective to like I guess like bond with somebody that like isn't like in the ways that matter, like them, it's going to be incredibly hard for them to see past that. It's like I guess like I feel like the one way that like how do I say the one way that people from diverse backgrounds could come and like like come together would be like if aliens came down and like attacked because it's like because it's no longer like white versus black, Indians versus X, Y, and Z. It's now like humans versus aliens, and because we're humans and we share that that fundamental characteristic, it's like I guess like we're all like subconsciously xenophobic, right?
You don't think even if we had aliens come and attack us, we would find a way to fight about it?
I
You know what
think
I mean? Like,
mm, I think like
it seems like the way that society is right now, we'd still figure out a way to fight it about
abs-
even that, right?
absolutely, bro.
So,
Absolutely.
so if let's say that we had a world that cooperated and was diverse,
Uh-huh.
would you be in favor of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would it look like?
I guess like
How would it be different?
that's a good question because I think like it would be like the most unicorns of like unicorns. Like it would be like some how do I say like on this side you have like old timey cowboys running around with their horses or some shit. And on that side you had like the techie people flying around. It'd be like something that like because like it's how do I say like you're expecting people from all sorts of different backgrounds to believe all sorts of different things, not only about like the way that the world works, but also the way that people work to build a society that like should like I guess like agree with itself when like a lot of those ideas about how the way the world works and the way that people work like do come into like I guess like they clash with each other, very, very deeply. Like for example, like that's like you have like I guess like the one thing that really comes to mind is like I guess like capitalism and like communism, right? Where like how'd I say like okay, like I don't know where this is gonna be, but just so I could say like I'm not like a capitalist, but I do think that like the reason capitalism is so effective is because it mirrors the way that the natural world already works, which is just a distribution of energy, constantly
Okay.
changing from who has the ability to maintain it, and like whatever, right? And I think like what's it called? So with that, like you have capitalist and communist, and like they both, I feel like with the way that like they're kind of interpreted nowadays, they both believe in like polar opposite things, where like cash should be given to the person who earns it, as opposed to like cash being how do I say, divided equally among all the people of a civilization. And it's just like, how do you get an idea like that to work under a society that's supposed to be diverse if we want to like, you know,
I think
what?
so. Yeah. Well, yeah, back to the diversity part.
Uh huh.
Let's say we wanted to test it out.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take me through your testing process to find out if this is true or not. Diversity is a barrier to cooperation.
Yeah.
How what would a test look like that would tell us that would give us information about that?
I guess how do I say a test for that? I would say would be like hmm how do I say it? I guess how okay. I'm thinking of multiple different things because I had like this one experience where I was walking to class, right, and I was outside of the lecture hall and I took a seat in the back and I was just like watching people, and I was watching the way that like people from like I guess different types of people sort of tended to like sit next to each other as a like I guess like guys would like from what I saw, they felt more comfortable sitting next to other guys and girls felt more comfortable sitting next to other girls. Or if guys couldn't find another guy to sit with or didn't want to, they would stand on their own. And if a girl couldn't find another girl to sit with, she would stand on their own.
Uh-huh.
If that kind of like I guess just like
So why is that a good test?
I feel like it just kind of shows that like naturally we're inclined to like what's it called? Naturally we're inclined to like find people and group with people that look more like us, and because of that I feel like it's a I think- yeah, like naturally we're inclined to group and like associate with people that look more like us, and because of that it's like a diversity being
Well, that might be something that would be interesting to, like, if something's natural,
yeah
does that mean that it's good or true?
um I don't think it's good, but how would you define true?
That's a great question. How are you using truth in this context?
I guess
Because it
uh-huh
sounded like you're saying diverse. It's a true statement
uh-huh
that diversity is a barrier to cooperation, right?
yeah
You're convinced that that's true.
yeah
So, in that context, what do you mean by true?
I guess by true, I mean like so I guess like it's kind of the same system that I use for morality because I think that morality is subjective, and with that like within the realm of like whatever is deciding what's right and wrong, there are truths that like it needs to that are truths that like whatever system it is needs to uphold in order to I guess sustain itself. And I guess that's what I kind of define as true. Like how would I say? I feel like I got way too abstract. Could you go back? Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about, like, if something's natural,
Yeah.
is that a good reason to think that something's true, or in this case, good,
Mm.
or beneficial? Maybe would be a better way of putting it.
Uh-huh.
Um, you're convinced that it's true that diversity is a barrier to cooperation,
Uh-huh.
and you're using the test of, the way that people act is because of nature. And so, why is that a good reason to think that diversity is a barrier to cooperation?
Mm. The way that people act being a barrier in cooperation.
Because that was the test, right?
Right. Hmm. Dude. Okay. Okay. Is that a good dude? No, I'm actually happy that I'm talking to you right now. But like, okay, so could you ask that again? I wonder what's happening to me.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of, you know, reflecting on this, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And kind of testing out the way we're thinking about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we're here to do,
Yeah.
is to critically think about something that we think is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, do you think that we should have good tests to find out if something's the case?
Mm. Are you talking about like a lab run experiment?
Or any kind of test? Doesn't have to be in a lab.
Uh-huh.
It could be like the example you gave. Like, people tend to congregate with people that they look like, right?
Right.
And so that, from what I heard, sounded like a good test to you because it demonstrated behavior that was natural.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, if it's natural, does that necessarily mean that it's true
Um.
or beneficial? However you want to take that.
Hmm. I guess like so for true, if it's natural, does that necessarily mean that it's true? Yes and no. I think like evolution is a very real thing, and like as time goes on, maybe in a way we'll find a way to like I guess like I guess look past the physical differences or the mental differences in people more easily. But then like at the like I think it's something that is true now, but it definitely is malleable, so it's more like a lowercase true.
Okay. So it's something that's true that you think is true now that could change?
Um, I think it could change ish, but then like more less of like, a complete like how do I say it? Like a complete like destruction of the idea and more just like changing of like where we draw the line.
Okay. Maybe I can kind of um, make a concise question
Uh-huh.
that can help us explore this a little bit easier. Let's say that we witnessed a group that was extremely diverse
Mm-hmm.
in whatever way you want to use, and they were cooperating just fine.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the best explanation for that?
The best explanation for that? I guess that like hmm, how big was this group? I actually because like oh that's a very good thing because like I guess what I find myself doing is like the first like what I wanted to do was be like oh like it's just like like nothing's 100%, that could just be like an error or some shit, like an
Mm-hmm.
outlier. But then like at the same time like an outlier is still representative of something that is possible even though it may not be common.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing it there because it can happen. So I guess like huh, I wouldn't throw away the idea entirely, but then like I guess like in that case like because like I guess what I want to say is like I guess show like I guess show me a group like that, that makes sense because like
Yeah. Well, let's say
yeah,
that we did. Let's
yeah,
say that we hypothetically
yeah,
we witnessed a group that was very diverse and they were cooperating fine.
yeah.
What would be the best explanation for that?
The best explanation for that, um I guess maybe they are we talking okay like how deep is this diversity?
However deep it needs to be for you to be satisfied that it was diverse.
uh hmm
And you don't necessarily have to say the depth, but let's just say that you were satisfied that this group was.
okay, so like okay, yeah, yeah,
let's
okay,
let's say that we have this group that
uh-huh,
you're satisfied at being diverse enough, and it went against your idea that it's a barrier to cooperation.
uh-huh.
What would How could we explain that?
How would we oh yeah, that's a really good question. How could I explain that? Because I guess like yeah, I guess what I'd want to do in that scenario, I'd want to like look around the environment and see if there's anything that is causing those people to like group together. Like let's say like, there's a serial killer or something running around, like, Jason or some shit. And it's like I try to look for something like that. But then like I don't think I'd actually be able to like I guess conceptualize something like that. Like I maybe like I'd have like
Well, take where we are right now.
yeah.
I would consider this a group of people, right?
Uh-huh.
Pretty diverse. It seems like we're all cooperating, right?
Not necessarily.
Like right now. Well,
I mean, we're not fighting each other, but not fighting doesn't necessarily mean cooperation.
okay.
I guess like what we see right now is again just like like that idea of like you stay in your lane, I stay in mine, being in effect. Like people are not cooperating because like they're not like because like they're very much I guess like still focused on their in groups. Like you look around, there's people inside of the like little bubbles, whether it be like friends,
Yeah.
family and whatnot, and they're like
Yeah.
talking amongst each other, like active show of like cooperation, right? But then like outside of that, you don't see any cooperation between different groups with other groups, if that makes sense. Like no other groups are mingling. It's just everybody is being like everybody a bunch of different people just happen to be in one specific space doing their own thing. And yeah,
Okay. So you don't necessarily see what we're doing here as cooperating?
mm,
Okay. What would we be having to do for it to be cooperation in your mind?
I guess for it to be cooperation, I think like what I'd want to see is like, I guess like, let's say like a hippie kid, like I guess runs over and talks to like a frat kid or something like that, like more things like that.
Okay. So if we were to see people that didn't look alike
Uh huh.
talking, what would that mean?
I'd be happy. It's
Happy? Would you consider that cooperation?
yeah.
Okay. 0 to 100, how confident are you that this is true?
I'm 77.
77?
Yeah.
How confident were you before we started talking?
Uh, maybe like a 76 or a 78.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because like I don't know if I've been moved that much to think differently. I think I've definitely been given a new avenue in some way to like look through what it is that I'm thinking, but I don't think what I'm saying is entirely wrong.
Okay.
So I'd say like maybe like a yeah, I'd say 77. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe you know what 79. There we go.
You were 79 and now
Or
you're at 77?
yeah.
Okay.
It's because it's kind of like that, like ignorance is bliss type of thing, where like the only reason somebody's happy is because like there's a lot less for them to fill that box of happiness. And now that like I've had my box of like what I need to fill been extended, it's like, there's more things for me to reconcile with. But once I reconcile those things, I'll be.
Cool. Well, that's great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for stopping.
Yeah, of course.
Kennedy, good to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
It's really coming down. Do you have something in mind?
You have any questions for me?
Um, I guess why are you guys I guess like what is it that you're looking for from all of this?
People, giving people a chance to recalibrate their confidence
Mm,
based on the exploration of the reasons that's supporting it.
mm. It's like, oh, I don't want to take up too much time, but my last question, right? Do you feel like there is a somewhat lack of understanding that people have of their own ideas that like you're trying to address and hopefully cure?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think it's important for people to have a good grasp on why they believe stuff
Mm-hmm.
because people's beliefs affect the way that they move in the world and act in the world.
Hmm.
And that affects the rest of us. And that's why it's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I really like your work.
That was great.
Honestly.
Thanks so much.
But yeah,
That was
take care,
cool.
man.